So today, we have only those people together. It is not difficult to see that most people are so busy. Too busy. They bury themselves in something and get lost. And this phenomenon seems to be taking place on almost everybody. What happens? Why are we so busy? Why does the mind keep feeding itself, making it full? Why are we always occupied by something? Can the mind be quiet? Can the mind end the busy state? It is rather easy to be busy, isn't it? Everything in the world can make one busy. But to be not busy, what is one to do? The mind tends to do something about the problem. But that busy state continues. And then we are all busy solving our issues. One issue by another issue. Solving one, a new one appears. So what happens to the mind? Why is the mind full of issues? Why are we so engaged in solving those endless issues? Obviously, we can't finish all the issues. They are always there, from one to another. Is that possible for the mind to put aside all the things? So we can really look observe and discover what is actually happening. But most of us are not doing that. The mind is always busy. There's no space to look. When the mind is looking, observing, the mind must act to put aside everything else. Can one do that now? Put aside all the issues one think. If the mind is always occupied by one issue or some issues, the mind can't really discover. Isn't it? Because the mind has a purpose. I want to finish the issue. I want to get rid of it. And in that purpose, the mind can't observe. When the mind doesn't observe, it can't discover the true issue, the actual issue. The issues the mind is entangled in are probably not the actual issues. So without this discovery, the mind is busy with its issues. It regards the mind has an image of what should be. And the mind is not satisfied with the current situation. They want to achieve that image. And the mind is making issues. And the mind seems to be full of all kinds of images of what should be. And through that projection, the mind keeps making issues, problems, and want to solve that issue according to the image of what should be. Is that taking place in ourselves? So the mind is always achieving that image of what should be. The mind always has a purpose, a target, a goal. Are those things making the mind full? Is that possible for one to put aside everything else and stay with this moment without a single image of what should be. When the mind is trapped in various images of what should be, it becomes very strict, very demanding. It is making efforts to be that, to be that. But the problem is that why is the mind holding on to those images of what should be? I should be excellent. I should be handsome. I should be well respected. I should be highly regarded. Why is the mind holding on to that, those images? Is that because the mind is afraid of being nothing? Always wants to be something. And this urge to be something is controlling the whole mind. The mind wants to achieve that target, to fulfill itself, to be satisfied. So the mind keeps making efforts to achieve the image of what should be, it thinks. And in that efforts, this struggle, there's fear, anxiety. All kinds of issues are in that process. But the mind still wants to achieve the goal, the image of what should be. Why? Is that because the mind refuses the fact that it is nothing? It always wants to be something. But can the mind see the fact? Psychologically, we are all nothing. This moment, we are nothing. But when the thoughts go beyond this moment, the mind wants to do something. Is that so? When the mind is actually anchored to here, it is nothing. But when the mind wanders away, all kinds of daydreaming, plans, dreams, ideals, goals, targets. The mind has an image about the self. And that image is the center of all those things, isn't it? My ambition, my career, my life, my family, my money, my house, my everything. Are those contents making the mind full? Are those self-centered thoughts occupying the mind? So I want to be something. I want to achieve something. I want a better this, that. You see, this process is always continuous. It never stops. This self, you may call it the ego or whatever, is always seeking fulfillment, seeking pleasure. But at some time, it is under stress, going through various issues, anxiety, fear, boredom, you name it. So one is asking, when one observes all of this, to live in this world, to live a daily life, why is mind occupied by those self-centered thoughts? Is that possible for one to live a daily life without being occupied? When the mind is occupied by various self-centered thoughts, the sense of me becomes rather real. When the mind keeps thinking about its plan, its goal, its imagination in terms of the future, that thinking process keeps re-enhancing the sense of me. But when one put aside everything now, put aside all the ambitions, all the plans, all the tasks, all the duties, this moment, there's no me, there's no you. And only at this moment, the mind can observe, learn, discover what is actually taking place. Otherwise, the mind is trapped in those self-centered thoughts. The mind can't observe what is actually taking place. But when the mind is observing what is actually taking place, there's no place for the me at all. Right? Where there's me, the mind is occupied. Therefore, the mind can't really see what is actually taking place. But when the mind puts aside everything else and just looking now, the me has no place. So, is that possible for one to have this awareness? In one's daily living? Not letting the mind be occupied. Seeing the fact that the me, the self, is the product of thoughts. And can the mind see that fact? Physically, this body does exist, right? But why are we holding on to a concept, a psychological concept, which is called the me, I, the self? When the mind is trapped in this psychological concept, which is the me, various self-centered thoughts, the mind is disconnected from the actual self, the physical body. Like when people are working too hard, concentrating on something too hard, him or she may forget his body. Like he may sit in front of the computer for the whole day, which obviously the body is under great stress, but he's too concentrating, and he didn't feel it unless there's some very severe issues, symptoms. And this seems to be taking place rather common in the world, because the mind is totally lost in the thoughts, where there are various issues, problems. So, So, what is one to do when it observes all of those? Thoughts becomes everywhere in the world. And each part of life is based on so many thoughts, ideas. The whole city, the whole society is based on thoughts. And we are trapped in the abstraction, the words, the images. And all those things bring thoughts immediately. Especially nowadays, we psychologically rely on words so much. And we can easily get satisfied from those words. And we don't really look. When one is at all serious about looking at all those things, one can find words are not the thing. Actually, words are never the thing. But why do we take words as a thing so easily? Is that because it is so easy, isn't it? It's so convenient to take the verse as a thing. Then we start looking at the thing. But to look at the thing directly demands diligence. Demands awareness. One must see what those words are pointing to. One must see what is actually taking place. What is actually taking place is beyond the verse. People make numerous promises, but most of them become empty. And if one is looking, observing, one finds that it is rather easy for a verbal mind to make promises. But to keep up that promise is a different matter. And when one really observes this, one must be very cautious with every promise people make. Because the promise is a verse, but the words are not a thing. But why does the mind take the promise as a thing? When the mind believes the promise, the mind can get disappointed. And encounter various issues. So can one observe, learn, without getting caught up in verse? words are never the thing. And we need to observe, learn, and be very careful with the verse. And when one is looking, learning, and discovering, one can find the me. Is something verbal. Isn't it? When we use the word I, when the mind talks to himself, I should be like that. I want to be something like that. I want to become something. I want to have a better position. You see, those words are operating on the mind. And when the mind takes those words as a thing, the meaning of those words has a center, which is the self, the me. Then the mind takes the me as a thing. It feels the me is so true, so real. But when one observes this whole process of the verbal mind, full of conclusions, viewpoints, theories, ideas, the me is the product of thoughts. So can one observe all of those in one's living? Can one be aware of that at each moment? Can one live a life without being trapped in verse? And our life is full of verbal things. Either in your home or in your workplace, everything is so verbal, so many thoughts going around. Can the mind be cautious of that? Can the mind observe without taking the verse as a thing immediately? This demands tremendous diligence. To let the mind never be deceived by verse. This also means that can the mind be at this moment? Because only at this moment, putting aside everything else, the mind is looking, observing. And can find out whether it is true or not. But as long as the mind is not at this moment, thoughts go beyond this moment. the mind has already taken the verse at the thing. Hasn't it? Because at this moment, there are no verse. The mind is observing its verse.